All children, except one, grow up. But what if they ended up in a soup instead? Welcome to a world not of sweet dreams, but of chilling nightmares, where childhood innocence is colored with macabre shades, and fairy tales reveal their gory underbelly. This is the world of the Brothers Grimm. The Brothers Grimm, Jacob and Wilhelm, were German academics who became renowned for their collection of fairy tales. But these were no ordinary tales spun for children's bedtime. These narratives, raw and unfiltered, were steeped in the darkest corners of human imagination, often ending not with a happily ever after, but with a chilling twist. Take the juniper tree, for instance, a tale of a wicked stepmother who, consumed by jealousy, kills her stepson and cooks him into a stew, feeding him to his unsuspecting father. The innocent boy reduced to a mere ingredient in a horrific meal. This is the essence of Grimm's tales. They expose the grim realities of life, dressed up as fantastical tales. These stories were not meant to lull children into peaceful slumber, but rather to serve as cautionary tales, stark reminders of the cruelty that lurks in the world. The Brothers Grimm painted a picture of life that was far from the sugar-coated versions we're accustomed to. Their tales were a mirror held up to society, reflecting its many flaws and grotesque elements. And so, as we delve deeper into the terrifying tales of the Brothers Grimm, we are left to question, what if the fairy tales we thought we knew were actually nightmares in disguise? What if Cinderella, Snow White, Rapunzel, and all the other beloved characters were not just victims of their circumstances, but also victims of their stories? Prepare to venture into the twisted world of Grimm's fairy tales, where innocence meets its gruesome end. It's time to unmask the horrifying truth behind these stories, to rip away the veil of fantasy and expose the horror beneath. So sit tight, brace yourself, and remember, not all fairy tales have happy endings. Some are born from nightmares. Imagine a world where a wicked stepmother decapitates her stepson and serves him as stew to his father. A chill runs down your spine, doesn't it? Welcome to the grim universe of the Brothers Grimm. This is not a world of happily ever afters. No, this is a realm where nightmares come to life, where the darkness within humanity is laid bare for all to see. Today we step into the horrifying tale of the juniper tree. In the story, a wicked stepmother, envious of her stepson's claim to her husband's wealth, plots a sinister scheme. She lures the innocent boy with an apple, only to decapitate him when he reaches into a chest to retrieve it. An act so grisly, it would make even the most hardened heart quiver with unease. But the horror doesn't end there. Oh no, it takes an even darker turn. The stepmother, in an attempt to cover up her heinous crime, cooks the boy into a stew that she serves to the unsuspecting father. She tells him the boy has left to visit his mother's relatives, leaving the father to enjoy his meal in peace, blissfully unaware of the gruesome truth. As he savors the stew, he remarks how delicious it is, not knowing that he's partaking in an unthinkable act of cannibalism. All the while, the stepmother watches, her wicked smile hidden behind a facade of innocence. This tale, as horrific as it is, serves as a stark reminder of the dark undertones that often lurk beneath the surface of many fairy tales. Not all fairy tales are meant to comfort or inspire. Some are meant to disturb, to shake us to our very core, to make us question the world around us. And so the father unknowingly devours his own son, a horrific meal that would haunt your dreams. A tale of horror, a tale of deceit, a tale that would send shivers down your spine. This is the horrifying tale of boy soup. Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair and with it your dark and twisted secret. We all know the tale of Rapunzel, the beautiful maiden trapped in a tower, her only connection to the outside world being her long, luscious hair. But there's a dark twist to this story that is often swept under the rug in modern retellings. The Brothers Grimm didn't shy away from the harsh realities of life in their stories. No, they painted a world that was as cruel as it was enchanting. In their version, Rapunzel isn't simply a damsel in distress. She's a woman who, despite her isolation, experiences the same trials and tribulations that any woman of her time might. Rapunzel's story takes a dark turn when she finds herself with child out of wedlock. A shocking detail for a fairy tale, wouldn't you say? But the Grimm brothers were never ones to sugarcoat their narratives. The prince, her only visitor, is the father. And while modern versions might have them live happily ever after, the original tale takes a more sinister path. Rapunzel, in her innocence, gives away the prince's visits to the wicked witch who keeps her captive. The witch, in her fury, cuts off Rapunzel's beautiful hair and casts her out into the wilderness to fend for herself, pregnant and alone. Meanwhile, the prince, blinded by the witch's thorns, wanders for years in despair. It's a far cry from the romantic rescues and perfect endings we're used to. Instead, it's a tale of deceit, betrayal, and the harsh consequences of forbidden love. Rapunzel's story is a grim reminder that not all fairy tales are filled with magic and merriment. Sometimes they're a mirror of the darker aspects of life, a reflection of the times they were written in. They're a stark contrast to the sanitized versions we're fed today, where every story ends with a smile and a happily ever after. Behind her beautiful locks, Rapunzel hides a dark secret, a tale of deceit and sin. In the grim world of Grimm's fairy tales, happy endings come at a horrifying cost. The tales we've come to know and love, filled with magic and whimsy, hide a much darker truth beneath their surface, a truth that is as grim as the name suggests. The Brothers Grimm, Jacob and Wilhelm, were not merely storytellers, but historians of their time. They painted a picture of a world filled with horror and hardship, a stark contrast to the sanitized versions we're familiar with today. Their tales were not meant to be bedtime stories for children, but rather a reflection of the harsh realities of the era they lived in. Take death, for instance, a recurring theme in many of the Grimm's tales. It's not a coincidence that death lurks around every corner in these stories. The Grimms lived in a time when life was fleeting, and death was a constant companion. The ever-present specter of mortality in their tales was a stark reminder of the fragility of life. Then, there's the element of cannibalism. It's a gruesome concept that appears more often than you'd expect. In the story of Hansel and Gretel, a witch lures children into her candy house with the intention of eating them. This horrifying plot point is a metaphor for the famine and starvation that was rampant during the time the Grimms were writing. Deceit and betrayal are other common threads that weave through the Grimm's tales. Characters are often punished for their lies and deceit, reflecting the moral code of the era. These tales served as cautionary tales, warning of the consequences of dishonesty and treachery. The Grimm's fairy tales are not just stories. They are a grim reflection of a world filled with hardship and horror, a world where happy endings were hard-earned and often came at a great cost. They are a mirror of the era's harsh realities, a grim reflection of the world as it was. So the next time you delve into these tales, remember, there's more to them than meets the eye. The Grimm's fairy tales, they are a mirror of the era's harsh realities, a grim reflection of the world as it was. Beware, dear listener, for the shadows of these tales lurk in the corners of our modern world. The horrors we've unmasked from Grimm's fairy tales may seem like mere relics of a bygone era. Yet, don't be fooled, they are not confined to the pages of an old book. They live with us, around us, among us, in the hidden corners and crevices of our daily lives. You see, the Brothers Grimm didn't invent these horrors. They merely held up a mirror to the human condition, reflecting our deepest fears, our darkest desires. The terrifying tale of Boy Soup, the chilling secret of Rapunzel. These are not just fantastical fables, but grim metaphors for the human capacity for cruelty and deception. Consider the modern world riddled with its own brand of horrors. The corporate ladder, for instance, mirrors the towering prison of Rapunzel's tower, where ambition can lead to a tragic downfall. Or the shocking reality of human trafficking, a grotesque echo of Boy Soup's tale, where innocence is exploited for unspeakable ends. And what about the invisible monsters that haunt our digital age? Cyberbullies who hide behind screens, spreading fear and torment, much like the faceless villains of Grimm's tales. The internet, a vast tangled web of information, not unlike Rapunzel's treacherous locks, can trap the unwary in a vortex of lies and manipulation. So, my dear listener, the next time you feel a chill run down your spine while scrolling through your social media feed, or sense a lurking presence in the quiet corners of your office, remember, you're not just living in the 21st century. You're living in the world of Grimm's fairy tales. You're not immune to its horrors, you're not safe from its shadows, because the Brothers Grimm didn't just tell stories, they spun warnings, reminders of the darkness that resides in the heart of mankind. And these warnings, much like their tales, are timeless. Remember, dear listener, in the world of Grimm's fairy tales, no one is safe from the horrors that lurk in the shadows.